Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I hope that you are feeling really wonderful today as we are going to be diving into the energy of June, moving from Gemini season into Cancer season, really diving deep, really looking back and working to calibrate ourselves to understand who we are to move forward. At one point in time in the month of June, we are going to have 7 retrogrades. It doesn't last long when there's a full 7, but on June 24th, yes, we will be having altogether Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Pluto, and the North Node retrograde in the sky. So this is very rare to have 7 planets retrograde at once. It's not so common. It is pretty common to have maybe 4 retrograde at the same time, as the outer planets go retrograde once per year and Mercury 3 times per year. So 4 or 5 will happen here and there, but to have all 7 is going to be very interesting. So we've been, at this point in time as we're moving into June, very accustomed to having Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto retrograde. I made videos about each of those, which I will link below if you would like to understand more about those retrogrades. But by the end of June, we're going to be having Neptune and Mercury joining as well, and Mercury will go in around mid-June, which I'll talk more about those in other videos. This isn't specifically a video about retrogrades. This is just about June as a month. And June as a month to me feels like the last page for a lot of people in a chapter or in a book even. Symbolically, that's the first intuitive message that I'm getting from June, is that it's a last page. It's a last look at something. It's a last impression, not a first impression, but a last impression of somebody or something in our lives. We are all receiving some amount of a last impression so that we can really calibrate ourselves. I keep hearing calibrate too. It's a calibration point where through seeing the last page or through having a final experience even with somebody, we can then start to build solidly moving into July and the rest of the summer, because we have very, very intense retrograde Capricorn energy. And I have been working really hard to understand the astrological significance of the quincunx of the Gemini season to the Capricorn retrograde energy. We've been talking over on Discord all the time about it. We've been going back and forth, like, what does this mean? How do we work with this quincunx energy? Be sure to join the Discord community below if you haven't. It's totally free, and it's just a fun community that we've built up to talk about, all these fun astrological and esoteric topics. Anyway, over on Discord, we've been trying to understand this significance, and it's been kind of a blockage. So the significance of this perhaps is a clearing of blockages, but it is still coming to me. And once I understand it, I will really come to you guys about it. But I talked a lot about it in the Venus retrograde video, but this quincunx is going to really be about shifting our perspective and our thought process into a more foundational and long-term methodical mentality, as I kind of feel like we haven't really been that methodical with certain things, and we've wanted to be. There's this desire for method, or this desire for a logical connecting point or a logical formula to build higher. This is where I understood Gemini and Capricorn energy to meet, is in method and in the building process. So I think that June, during the Gemini portion of June, is just going to be about learning how to methodically build a better life for ourselves. And it's also going to flip a switch too. So with Gemini energy, this is interesting how you can just suddenly flip into a new dimension, or flip a switch and enter a new paradigm, how quick things can change during Gemini season. And with June of 2020, that is maybe not as empowered as usual with the Capricorn triple retrograde conjunction, but it's there's a very powerful ability to shift here. And this, I think, for people who've needed to make a change, or people who delayed a change or staggered a change in their lives, this is really the time, and this might be one of the last chances. We've got Gemini season and Virgo season to make changes if we need to, but otherwise we've got to really be maintained within a solid routine and maintained within a solid method. So June is also going to want us to establish a solid method, especially by the time that we get into Cancer season towards the end. It needs to be very methodical, and it needs to be a comfortable giving time to ourselves that helps us to build more solidarity and stability. And well relationships too for the future. So an interesting thing about June that I'm also feeling is that it really helps the relationship game for a lot of us. So this Gemini season, very interestingly, has given us a lot of gifts of relationships, and maybe everyone won't be able to resonate with this, but you'll see it in hindsight, where the people that you connected with during this time, or the people that you made friends with or were able to speak to, were very showing of your current status, as I think that some people with this quincunx are not quite aware of their status, or not quite aware of the role that they think that they need to play. So there's a very interesting shift in perspective about the role that you're playing in your life or the lives of other people, and how that is connected to your status. Again, as we move to Cancer time, and let me tell you guys, Cancer time is going to be something else. That is going to be a very interesting Cancer season, as it will oppose the triple retrograde Capricorn conjunction. And it will trigger it. It will give it a launching point. So that's going to really channel out that Capricorn energy as we've seen it, or as we need to see it individually at a karmic level. But that'll be more for the July video. But we're a little bit there towards the end of June, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. What I'm getting at here is that we need to really get clear on what status we want in life, okay? What role we want to play, who we want to be for other people, what job we want to have, what career we want to have. We can have really good ideas about making that a little bit more authentic and more natural to what we actually want in life. So that is one of the beautiful things about this June, is it feels that it shows us so clearly what an authentic role to play in life, or in the lives of others, or in a career, something outside of ourselves, okay? What is authentic outside of ourselves? Because hopefully we've built that inside. Hopefully we've used the last few years to build an authentic interior space. You know, not everyone's there, and it's never too late, but either Cancer season, as we move to the end of June, that will start to foster that comfortable interior space around you, or it will be the time to just build that authentic interior space. But the Gemini season, for those of us who've built the authentic interior space, that will really help us to then know how to establish that in the outside world as well. Okay, next thing I'm feeling for June is a switch in lane for a lot of people. I've heard this a lot too, and I've noticed that a lot of people are kind of wanting to switch lanes with what they're doing in life. So trying to kind of take the progress that they've made somewhere in like one field or in a relationship or something, and just switch it over or change it up in some way. And that is kind of a consolidation of this Gemini and Capricorn energy, where you take the progress you've made, or you take the everything that you've gotten from one experience, and then you try to put it into a new experience, or you try to place it into a new area of channeling. This to me does feel a little bit strange. Okay, I am seeing some weird things where, you know, maybe someone who's been very, very successful in, I don't know, the tech industry now wants to run for government, or somebody who has really been a great, you know, homemaker or family person now wants to have their own TV show, you know. It's trying to like take what we have and put it into a new area of channeling. And this isn't bad in all cases. Like, I'm seeing that some people are really creating incredible things by channeling what they've built in one place into a new mode of basically. It's just shifting the mode of a type of asset or resource that we've built over a long time. And some people are doing it really good, and for some people it's a bit of a neurosis as well, or it's a bit neurotic how they are going about this. And the visualization, or the thoughts that they're getting as it relates to how they might change or how they might shift up, is really driving some people crazy, okay? I see some people getting very egocentric, okay, at this time, with how they're going to move forward and the things that they could accomplish, or the things that they could move on to. And then I also see some people who are really devoted to a certain cause, devoted to a certain healing as well, wanting to really help others. That is something that's coming up here too. As these things start to consolidate a little bit, through helping others, we start to gain power or something like that. And we kind of lose track of our foundation if we're not careful as people, or we lose track of what we've built, or what it was like before we built what we've built. So watch out again for the visualizations, especially during Gemini season. I've talked about this on Patreon a lot, where visualizations can really disconnect us from where we currently are, and they can be a coping mechanism for unhappiness in our present. So what it's the instinct that we're tapping into is just the instinct of change, where we realize that something is not what we want it to be, so we try to change it, or we try to give ourselves a new story or a new environment in some way. And when the ego gets really tied into that, it can start to get very messy, and you can really build up a lot of like traps for yourself as well, or just kind of move into a very subconscious territory with how you're acting in life. So if you've recognized within that you need to shift lanes, or that you need a change, a different career, or a different relationship, or a different home, something needs to shift, you're not wrong, okay? These instincts are never wrong. Like if you're now seeing yourself in a totally different career, and you're thinking, wow, this is what I've actually wanted forever, and you feel motivation towards that, this is a beautiful gift, okay? If you're feeling motivation elsewhere in life, what a gorgeous sign from the universe that it is time for a change. But you really want to watch out for how much you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, okay? Being qualified now at this time is an important thing with the Capricorn energy. This is not the person who just magically winds up in a leadership position, okay? This is not the person who, goes from the acting career to the music career either, okay? We have to really see where we're qualified, how we're qualifying ourselves, and how we're, stuck in those positions too by the decisions that we've made in the past. Now, once we get to later this year with the injection of Aquarius energy, there is time for a complete reinvention there. But I would like to establish a self-dialogue in anybody who is here about, why during this time, in one of the most solidifying and consistent energies that humanity can know, why do I want the change now? Okay, is there a fear of commitment? Is there a fear of being stuck? Is there a fear of doing something for a very long time at once? Okay, especially for the Sagittarius out there, the Jupiterian people. I feel them to be hit most hard by this. Be careful for grass is greener on the other side complex, and also for anything that deals with really strict hierarchy as well, where there are a lot of subordinates or overhead or lots of very courtly type of vibes as well. So if we can kind of be outside of that now, it's not bad, okay? Because I kind of feel like there's this deep thing within humanity's consciousness that is being reactivated right now that deals with a bit of like tyrannical typecasting or something, where we're moving back into a very strict form of hierarchy. And humanity has always been very hierarchical, okay, and it still is, but I feel this to be being like augmented right now. And the thing is once we get to Aquarius time, that's going to really change up, and that could be very rejected then, okay? So it's almost better to really play things safe right now, and to really do the tried and true. I mean, I know this doesn't sound great to people who really want to change, but the tried and true will not betray you at this time. The tried and true, what you've been doing, the methodical, the safe, okay? These things are the best way to work with Capricorn energy. But the question is, were these quote-unquote safe, methodical things that you might have in your life now, were those things built on a toxic foundation, okay? That's what we can really fix and change right now, is the purity of the foundation of what we've built on, okay? And we can all kind of feel that. We can all kind of feel that it could be a lot more purified, how we're living our lives. And that consciously might be activating us to think, okay, I need a complete change. Now I want to do this, or now I want to do that, and I'm going to leave it all behind. But not really till the end of 2020 is that even remotely possible, without some kind of majorly egomaniac type of experience, okay? Without a huge existential crisis, without a lot of dissatisfaction it takes to completely reinvent or completely reform any momentum during such an empowered Capricorn year. Okay. And we just get a little bit of an insight of what that looks like in the future during Gemini season. And we can't forget that we're in a 1 this year either. We are in Year of the Rat, which is the numerological energy of 1. So we all want to reinvent. We all want to start these new cycles. And there is a frustration this year. And I feel horrible to keep having to say this over and over again, is for every person to some degree, there is an immense frustration this year about what do I start over with and how do I bring, the past 12 years with me at the same time. And it's not easy. But what we have to do, I think, and the only way to really cope with it is to understand how we can consolidate, to understand what value we need to bring and how it can apply to the direction that we're going. And also the stories that we never needed to be a part of in the first place. And being able to let go and release the things that we don't even need to hold on to anymore. Just so we can feel light enough, because the energy of 1, okay, numerologically, is very light. This is very uninhibited energy, very unweighed down. Now, Capricorn is the blatant obvious, and we have nearly a complete straight of Capricorn energy in the sky. So yeah, probably this year of 2020 is one of the most potently testing years, maybe even in the history of humanity. And I'm not exaggerating there, guys. As an astrologer, and I think any other astrologers, feel free to comment below with any insights you have on this, and if you agree or disagree with that statement, where for me as a longtime practicing astrologer, I have not really seen this type of contradiction in the sky, okay? And this type of it could go this way or it could completely go that way. Like, usually astrologically, we can get a strong impression about momentum or about, is it time for a change? Is it time to keep things the same? But this year it is really hard to judge it, and I would probably say it's more so the time to keep things the same, and more so the time to conserve, okay? Because I do think that the Capricorn energy outweighs the energy of the 1 with the rat year, and it outweighs the seasonal, more individualistic, change-oriented transits. But nonetheless, it's demanding, and if things aren't right, Capricorn energy does not settle for things that are not right for it, okay? So it does change. Capricorn energy does create changes and does shift before it loses the essence of its project, or before it loses the totality of its experience. So there are times where Capricorn changes. But basically, June of 2020, guys, this is us trying to understand the concept of change, okay? And this is us trying to understand when it's appropriate, when it's not. Is it sometimes an ego trip? Is it a matter of necessity? Things like that, okay? And why that is, because this doesn't necessarily sound the most Saturnian or the most Capricorn. That's because of Pluto, okay? That's because we had Pluto and Saturn conjunct in Capricorn for the first time in 500 years at the beginning of this year, before we had all of this groundbreaking and momentum shifting experiences of the quarantine and the global implications of that. So, as I talked about in my Henry VIII video that I did for regarding the previous Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn 500 years ago, it was the Protestant Reformation then. It was a very reformative time, okay? And despite it being Pluto and Saturn conjunct in Capricorn, it's like the Plutonian energy takes it and it just tears it into this black hole of creatively and sometimes tyrannically changing and reforming a certain type of societal norm or type of consciousness of humanity. So that's what we're going through as a collective right now, guys. And bringing this back into the guise of 2020, because June 2020, because we're moving into Cancer season, which is going to re-invoke the energy of the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn that happened back in January. It's going to re-invoke it, and we'll talk more about this in July's video, because July is really going to be the time where we feel that most strongly. Oh my god, July of 2020, you guys. You think this video is intense? That one is going to really take it to the next level, because I feel that energy so strongly. And to just kind of prepare you, because June is like a preparation month for July of 2020. June is a last page. It's a sort of a shift in lane as we prepare to cross the bridge of 2020, or the toll, as we go through the toll road of 2020. we shift lanes and we approach the toll is sort of the image that I'm getting psychically there. So there's a cost in July of 2020. So do be prepared, whether this is more mundane or more collective, to pay a big bill in July of 2020. It could be for some people. It could be monetary, it could be tax, it could be, energetic as well. There's a lot of us to do, and there's a lot of understanding about the payments that we need to make then. Very, very strong energy of trade and barter and monetization, as well as the Capricorn Cancer axis gets activated in July. So let us prepare ourselves for that. What will not betray you in June of 2020? Because I think we're all seeking safety. We're all seeking safe harbor. We're all seeking, consistency and solidarity to some degree. I think that what will not betray you is keeping kind, of course, and just keeping things small. Like, there's a lot of ego at play at this time where we want to go big and we want to be seen and we want to have power and have status and have, rank and things like that, and or play a role in someone else's power journey. And I think that being outside of all of those games is to most people's advantage right now. Some people are going to do it well, and some people are going to really get a lot of elevation at this time, because this is the highest point. If you're afraid of heights, or if you have a fear of heights, stay on the ground right now. There's a lot of people being elevated really high up to only realize that they're terrified of heights at this time. And sometimes we don't know that we're afraid of heights until we're at the top of the skyscraper. Sometimes we don't know that we're afraid of flying until we're 30,000 feet up in the airplane, and that's a lot of what the experience feels like to me. By trial and error, we discover what we're afraid of. So having a bit more discretion and personal awareness of what you don't need or what you don't want in your life is really good, okay? And specifically, what's not going to betray you is kind of keeping things small, or kind of just keeping things predictable and loving, because what I also see, and this is really fascinating and very individualistic type of message coming in, is that there can also be a realization at this time of how you have worked really hard to enable other people, or very expensive emotional relationships that you have with either family members or people especially who've been in your life for a long, long time. You can start to see really clearly that there's a major energetic transaction going on there, and that love, despite being the name of the game or something like that, is not really present there right now. Very clear and so easy to see people who are married, or people who are family, who quote unquote love one another by default, being quite mean and quite unkind and very unloving to one another, yet still remembering the bond that they share through whichever long-running tie there is. So what is important is to be expressing love to the people that you do quote unquote love. I've caught on to this since about a year ago, actually, where we're being much more kind and much more, caring toward complete strangers, or toward people that we barely have any connotation with, as compared to the people that we have long-running, supposedly loving ties with, who we might be being most unkind to. It's a strange duality there. So this is an important thing to focus on during June and July of 2020 as well, is because it really straightens out. The people that you're contentious toward, or the people that you're not kind to, will become more of an enemy, or become more of a difficult relationship, and it will start to be more congruent, okay? So you might start to see that you have the best relationship with strangers and acquaintances in your life if you have this conditioning, and that the people that you thought that were your allies, or the people that you thought were your close people, are no longer there, okay? Or even if they're there, it's just not really, it's not there, it's no lights are on, no one's home, behind the eyes they're in the same room, but there's no really connection there, because it's a default. There's a default loyalty that some people have, but it's maybe really contentious, or it's really bleak at this point in time in the Capricorn energy, getting into the last decade of it, and with it going retrograde. This is so much like long-running relationships that have gone into a bad territory, or at least into a heavy category. And if there are people that have been in your life for a very long time that you're just like struggling with, distance really is the key, I think. You do not want to force connection or force interaction, because it's kind of can become very ugly. You know, if you look at people who are in like power marriages, or like very like quote unquote powerful families, you know, oftentimes they can't stand to be in the same house together. You know, they live in many different luxurious houses, yet they have quote unquote like strong ties, because there's like a resource binding that happens. And I think that a lot of us, you know, are engaged in stories like that, where these people that we're really close to, we really cannot stand to be in the same home, or cannot stand to be in the same structure, yet there is a binding nonetheless. So yeah, there's some kind of work that needs to be done there. A small percentage of people will be able to overcome it with love, and that would be wonderful if people can understand why they've been where they've been, and they can understand the loyalty that has been there. But also, I feel that there are a lot of power games and a lot of power trips in family dynamics right now too. So families might want to be separate. Interestingly, with this retrograde Capricorn energy as we move into Cancer season, I cannot see that for some families it is good to be under the same roof. But then there are obviously some that can definitely do it. But yeah, distance, separation, everybody's energy fields are just way outside of themselves right now, so it's hard for anybody to really be in close quarters together. But of course, some of us have to be. This doesn't mean that you need to go and like split up your family or do something very like brash, and it's going to depend on the individual dynamic. But if you have a lot of adult people living together, like people who are, you know, like no minors or anything like that, and it's like even if it's just like friends, like a lot of adults who've lived together for a long time, this is not really very well supported. Cancer season of 2020 will show us what independence looks like, okay, and individual reliability looks like, I think, in my opinion. And this is interesting because I've had so many people message me, I've had so many people reach out to me saying I'm moving, or I'm getting my own place, or something like that, and more so than ever, I've had people talk to me about this. So interesting to see what the collective is trying to do there, you know, really trying to foster that independence. And what is interesting is that this time I feel actually seeks to heal the family unit as well. So there is like a separation, or there is a something that needs to be healed within the theme of the family unit, as I feel a lot of wounds there with Pluto and Capricorn in general. Okay, every cycle of Pluto and Capricorn is very immediately destructive to the family unit, and then healing as well, as it's really transforming humanity's correlation with the idea of family. So especially during Cancer season of this year, I feel that there are many, many family dynamics that need to be worked on, okay? And maybe distance is best, maybe togetherness is best. It's going to depend on every individual family. But I do think there's family context to be thought about with this time of June of 2020 and July, and I just got deja vu as well. So yeah, we are definitely healing family wounds. Some of us are creating distance, some of us are coming together more. One way or another, there's a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of control as well within those dynamics that have to be worked through. So interesting about the family. Anyway, try to not let it worry you too much, because, again, too much conscious contemplation of all of this can kind of overfocus the energy and make things more difficult. But, you know, I just think, in conclusion, to sum up, you know, the good points of June of 2020 is that this is your cultivation point, okay? We are all building ourselves. We are creating and forging our own identities during this time. And yeah, with all these retrogrades, this can really look like seeing the not so healthy part of your identity, okay? This can definitely look like seeing the not so healthy part of your family, the not so healthy part of your past, the not so healthy part of your current projects. That might happen. And if you find yourself there where it feels like spiraling around you are these things that are just so unhealthy and so worn and weathered and out of good condition. That is a wake-up point, and that is a shifting point where we perhaps change lanes and we start to understand what it takes to actually create changes in our lives and what it takes to actually realize the realities that we want. Because I will say, what I've seen in so many people is this kind of like corrupted point of where we know what we want or we know what we would like to aim for, but we really shoot ourselves in the foot, or we really inhibit ourselves to actually manifesting that outward. Like we can get myopic and we can really succumb to instant gratification cycles that prevent us from actually realizing the reality that we want. So we get caught and stuck in this never-ending run in circles of like, I want this, but I'm not going to give it to myself. I want this, but in this immediate moment, I'm going to betray that and I'm going to corrupt that just to get caught in this cycle of wanting but not having, so that I can have some amount of life force. So that is a major wound that humanity is trying to heal in its consciousness right now. So really grow your wings, really allow yourself to understand what it takes to move into the path that you want, and to also scrutinize that path just a little bit and ask, why do I want this path? You know, why do I want that? What am I going to accomplish? What good am I going to do? Really, really wonderful to finally come onto a path of good, a path of light, things like that. Because we are moving up within the entirety of this year's cycle into a place of true, like, reformation. So, yeah, it's not really set in stone, though, how that's going to go. And we are setting that in stone over these next few months. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I hope this has helped you understand a little bit about the energy of June. It is one of the most interesting months. Have fun with it. There are fun, enjoyable things coming in for a lot of people. This Gemini season will be a bit of a respite, actually, for many people about, the heaviness of everything. So there are nice meetings to have, there are nice communications to have, and there is, I think, a lot of light and a lot of hope when it comes to some of the more difficult things we've been facing, and a lot of hopeful news to come out, I hope, I think that could be indicated. But just think about how you want to move forward and how you want to make things more solid and more lovable in your life. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. I am going to work now on the June general readings by sign. So if you wanted to jump over to my Patreon page and get those early, they should all be available by the time you're watching this. And I will link that below. You just got to scroll down and click that Patreon link, as you will get all the readings early, ad-free, and their extended counterparts just by having your 1 monthly subscription. So for just $5 a month, you can get all of that, plus weekly tea chats. I mean, it's an incredible value. I've tried to offer the most incredible value for this time of unrest and economic difficulties. So I do have higher tiers if you wanted to contribute more, but for that really low tier, you get so much, valuable content. So that won't last much longer, but you can still get that there at that value. So I'll link that below. I also have an ebook called Moon Symbols if you wanted to learn more about healing your moon and get some more emotional understanding of your disposition through the moon. That will be linked below as well as just some affiliate links I have to just all to keep this channel going. And if none of that, please hit the subscribe button if you've enjoyed this content or if it's resonated for you, as well as the thumbs up button, so that YouTube will algorithm this video to some degree. That would be very much appreciated. I hope you're doing wonderful, everyone, and I hope that you are keeping safe, keeping strong, and keeping healthy at this time. Good luck with moving forward. I will talk to you soon. New videos every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Much love. Bye.